The Komodo Dragon. A few thousand people live on the same handful of Indonesian islands as this animal, and their kids walk to school across ground it hunts. It outweighs most of them, and the bite is almost never the thing that kills you. What kills you is what the bite leaves behind in your bloodstream. This is the heaviest lizard alive, up to 10 feet long, commonly 150 to 200 pounds, and able to put away 80% of its own body weight in a single sitting. It ambushes from cover beside a trail, bites once, and then lets go. Venom glands in the lower jaw ooze anticoagulants and blood pressure crashing toxins into the wound, and the animal simply follows, reading air currents with a forked tongue from miles downwind. It doesn't need to win the fight today. It needs to be nearby when the fight ends on its own. In 2024, researchers at King's College London found iron coating the serrations of its teeth, showing up as orange stain along every cutting edge. Somewhere along the line, nature looked at this thing and decided what it really needed was metal-plated steak knives. Most people have heard that Komodos kill with a filthy, bacteria-loaded mouth. The common version of this is wrong. The mouth flora is pretty ordinary, and the venom glands, confirmed in 2009, are the actual weapon. It isn't hunting you. That's not the same thing as being safe. A wound that looks survivable, blood that won't clot for hours, and 36 bites, with 5 deaths logged in 50 years. Decent odds, right up until you notice the lizard was never in a hurry. The Crocodile Monitor. Every instinct you have about lizards puts them somewhere below you, on the ground, around ankle height. This one lives in the canopy of New Guinea, which means the first thing you'd know about it is weight settling onto a branch above your head. There's one measurement that makes it the longest lizard alive and explains, at the same time, why it'll never be the biggest. Roughly 2/3 of this animal is tail. On a 6-foot person, that would be 4 feet of tail and 2 feet of everything else. Stretched out, it's been verified at just over 8 feet, and it weighs maybe 20 to 40 pounds, less than a big dog. It looks like somebody built a lizard out of a bike chain and screwed a mouth onto the end. That mouth is the part that matters. The teeth are large, flat and serrated, built to slice instead of crush. And this species is quicker to bite than any other monitor. Bites open deep lacerations, heavy bleeding, nerve damage. It traded mass for reach, basically. A heavy body can't work a canopy, so the weapons got sharper rather than bigger. You'll also hear about 12 and 15-foot crocodile monitors. That reputation comes from measuring an animal that's mostly tail and then rounding up with enthusiasm. The record seems to shrink every time somebody shows up holding an actual tape measure. Most lizards you have to look down to find. This one you have to look up. The Asian water monitor. This isn't a remote island animal. It lives in the canals, storm drains, and public parks of Southeast Asian cities, including a permanent population in the middle of Bangkok. Tourists photograph these things instead of running from them. And the reason why says more about the lizard than it does about the tourists. Its range runs from Sri Lanka across to Sulawesi, and then straight into a city of more than 10 million people, where the largest individuals push past 10 feet nose to tail. Maximum weight is over 110 pounds, which makes this the second heaviest lizard on Earth. It swims hard, it eats fish, rodents, eggs, and carrion of nearly any description. And in the wild, it's genuinely docile. Nature issued it 100 pounds of appetite and absolutely no ambition. From its point of view, a city is just the richest scavenging ground anybody ever built. And it works the same waterways day after day, like a commuter with a fixed route. Most people assume anything that size in a storm drain must be stalking them. Unprovoked attacks are rare. Nearly every recorded injury involves a cornered animal in a drain or a garage with nowhere left to go. And then the bite opens deep punctures across a hand or a forearm. The city doesn't have a lizard problem. The lizard has decided the city isn't a problem. If big, terrifying animals are your thing, I make videos like this all the time, and subscribing really helps. Thanks. The Perentie, Central Australian Desert. almost no people, almost no roads, and the largest lizard on the continent moving across open ground. It'll run from you, sure. The way it's built to run is the part that should bother you. Picture the teeth first. Long, sharp, serrated, and curved backward, so anything they close on can only travel one direction, deeper. If your teeth did that, everything you bit would work its way in on its own, like the world's least forgiving turnstile. Now put that grip on a kicking kangaroo, holding while the kangaroo does all the work. This lizard takes rabbits, birds, other lizards, and yes, small kangaroos, and it tops out around 8 feet and more than 30 pounds, in country where the nearest hospital is a day away. Arid Australia never grew big mammal carnivores, so the top predator slot in the desert sat open, and a lizard walked into it. Same job, completely different animal. It has no interest in you. It also has no equipment for telling the difference between you and something it does want. And it has a long snake of a neck bolted onto a body built like a wheelbarrow, which does nothing to make the rest of it less alarming, and doesn't look assembled on purpose. Australia's biggest lizard clears 8 feet, and most Australians will go their entire lives without seeing one. The Bengal Monitor. This lizard lives at the edges of villages and farmland across South Asia, on the same ground as more than 1 billion people, which makes it the big lizard you're most likely to actually bump into, and a story about its grip has followed it for 300 years. The animal runs close to 6 feet, and more than half of that is tail. 39 inches of tail behind about 30 inches of lizard, with heavy individuals pushing 16 pounds. Its whole defensive strategy is anchoring. Claws lock into bark or dirt, jaws lock onto whatever's closest, and the tail delivers a lash you feel through a boot. Nothing about it is fast. Nothing about it lets go either. Now, the story. A popular legend in Maharashtra holds that Shivaji's general Tanaji Malusare scaled the walls of Sinhagad Fort using a monitor lizard tied to a rope, and out of that grew a wider belief that these animals cling to a surface unshakably. It's not a documented grip, it's folklore, and nobody has ever worked out where the physics were supposed to come from. The claws are good, they're not construction equipment good. That legend is also one of the reasons the species is now hunted for its parts across the region. Nobody has ever explained how 16 pounds of lizard was supposed to hold up a man in armor. Stories about these animals almost always overshoot the truth, and the truth is already big enough to put you in a hospital. The Lace Monitor. Campgrounds, picnic areas, and back gardens along Australia's east coast, and a 6.5-foot lizard that has worked out exactly where humans leave food. The most dangerous thing it does to a person has nothing to do with hunting. It doesn't want anything from you at all. This is the second largest monitor in Australia, and an exceptional climber, with claws long enough to hold its entire body flat against vertical bark while it rests. Run that on yourself, hanging off a brick wall by your fingertips, indefinitely, relaxed. It'll sit up there like a coat somebody threw at a hook. Startled though, its whole plan is height, not aggression, not defense, elevation. It sprints for the nearest vertical object and goes up it faster than you can get to your feet. And in an open clearing, a standing adult human is the tallest available structure. This is where intent stops mattering. It doesn't want to hurt you. It wants to be somewhere high, and you're the tallest thing in the clearing. Australian folklore says a goanna bite never really heals, that it flares up again every year, or every 7 years, forever. Turns out the truth is chemistry rather than a curse. Oral venom glands were confirmed in monitors in 2005, producing anticoagulants, which is why the bites bleed long, swell within minutes, and close slowly. Nature handed this thing world-class climbing gear and no ability whatsoever to identify what it's climbing. The most dangerous thing this lizard does is try to get away from you. The Rock Monitor. It's the most massive lizard in Africa, and almost nobody outside the continent can name it, which is the whole problem, because people meet it without knowing what they're standing next to. It has two defensive plans. The first one is violent. The second one is why it has a reputation for being harmless. 6 feet 7 inches at maximum, tail matching the body length, and adult males running 13 to 18 pounds of solid muscle. Threatened, it hisses, inflates its throat until it looks twice as wide, and lashes with the tail. Half its total length is tail. That's 18 pounds of animal swinging a 3-foot whip, and it opens skin. If the hissing and the whip don't work, it goes completely limp and plays dead until the threat loses interest, which reads less like panic and more like a business decision. Nothing about this lizard is fast enough to outrun what matters, so its entire survival strategy is negotiation. Look bigger, hit harder, and if neither lands, become worthless as a meal. The throat inflation is pure posturing, the reptile version of squaring up in a car park. It isn't playing dead because it gave up, it's playing dead because Plan 1 involved a whip and a mouthful of teeth, and it still has both. Bluffing is what an animal does when it can afford to be wrong exactly once. The yellow-spotted monitor. On the floodplains of northern Australia, there's a lizard that stands up on its back legs to look at you, and it comes up around chest height. It braces its weight on the base of its tail and holds the pose, surveying ground, throwing threat displays, and on cool mornings, just sunbathing that way. Nature gave a 5-foot predator the ability to stand upright and no social reason to use it politely. Researchers have documented one holding the stance purely to catch more sun, which is the kind of finding that makes you wonder what else they get up to when nobody's watching. Big males clear 15 pounds. It's also a bold forager, the kind that tries unfamiliar prey without hesitating, and normally that's an advantage. Cane toads reached Australia in 1935. The toad carries a toxin in glands behind its head that stops a lizard's heart, and this monitor has no history with the compound and no defense against it. One swallowed toad is enough. On the Adelaide River floodplain, numbers have fallen by 75 to 90%. You'd assume a big predator just learns to avoid new toxic prey. What actually happens is the boldest feeders die first, which is why this species has been hit far harder than other monitors sharing the same ground. A lizard that can stand up and look a grown man in the chest was undone by something it could swallow whole. The Nile Monitor. This one isn't a story about somewhere else. It's established and breeding in Charlotte, Lee, and Palm Beach counties in Florida, and biologists there call it the most dangerous invasive lizard in the United States. The reason they say that has almost nothing to do with its size. It clears 7.5 feet and 22 pounds, which does make it the largest lizard living wild in America, but the problem is the rest of the package. It's a strong swimmer and a burrow user, in a state built entirely on canals. It's quick to react, comfortable around people, and it defends itself with a heavy tail whip, sharp claws, and a bite that arrives before you finish deciding what to do. It also raids crocodilian nests for eggs and hatchlings, which puts direct pressure on native alligators and crocodiles. From African rivers and wetlands across most of a continent to canal banks in 3 Florida counties. 7.5 feet, 22 pounds, breeding in both places. Honestly, it found a state with year-round warmth and unlimited waterfront and did what anybody would do. The alligator nests are just an amenity. Most people think released pets can't establish a real population, that you get a few strays and a cold snap sorts it out. These populations are self-sustaining and reproducing. None of these animals are hunting you. That was always the comfortable half of the sentence. The uncomfortable half is that capability travels and intent was never required. Nobody has a count, which means nobody can tell you how this one ends. I post new animal breakdowns every week, so hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.